What's up, everybody? Welcome to State of the Nation, the Athletics Raiders podcast. Jimmy Durkin and Vic Tafur in Alameda, getting ready to hop on a flight tomorrow morning and head over to Denver. First road trip of the regular season. My first road trip of the year. You've had a couple preseason games. Always love Denver. Denver's a good road trip for Raiders fans, I think, and it's a fun place to go. I like it.
Yeah, I got some spots there that hit. It's definitely a good atmosphere, and people there love their football, so it's a big rivalry game. I think everyone's gonna be fired up for this one.
I like that. I mean, I like Mile High. It's a not really kind of a no frills stadium to me. To me, it's just like it kind of feels like a football stadium. It's not ridiculously fancy, but it kind of has the good sight lines. Kind of has everything you need. Yeah,
I agree. I think a good positive energy. The fans are definitely into it. It's a good football atmosphere.
Well, speaking of positive energy, Vic and I were discussing how we're going to approach this episode, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to be positive. We're going to. I'm going to put a number on. I'm saying 90% positive. We know the nation out there is a little bit on edge.
A little bit. A little bit.
They're a little bit on edge. I know. It was a weird first week just from what happened the week before that we're not going to talk about to the opener, the 33-13 loss, but we're gonna try to find. This is gonna be a therapy session for you guys.
Put on some Chardonnay in the background. We'll pour a little nice little glass of wine. We're gonna take it easy. We're gonna chill a little bit.
I mean, we got yelled at last week for not having enough energy. You said even your mom was disappointed with your energy level.
I think it was early. I think we did it early in the morning. I wasn't really totally awake, but yeah, we got to be a little more positive and. I'm not going to talk about certain trades. I don't know. I guess there was a trade before the year. Not going to mention that because that's too negative. So we're going to just kind of chill. We're just going to just relax and kind of see things for the possibilities, not for the negative stuff.
All right, so let's look at some of the positives. We don't like to dwell too much on the previous game, but we do want to point out some of the positives. And number one, the tackle play. Colton Miller, aside from the play where, if anybody's seen the mic'd up of Marcus Peters, where Peters got him a little bit on the cut block and kind of olayed him. Good game from Colton Miller, and heavy praise on the conference call this week from Von Miller, who really liked what he saw out of Colton. And then on the other side, Donald Penn. So it looks like those two guys are in good shape, which is good going into this game because last game we saw, obviously, the Rams and Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald, those guys are as good as the Raiders' interior line is. Those guys are going to create interior pressure. This week, it's more the exterior guys. It's Von Miller, it's Bradley Chubb. And so the fact that the Raiders are looking pretty good at tackle is a good sign. Yeah, this will
be a much bigger test this weekend for those guys. But they did a nice job. And Colton Miller, I talked to him today. He's kind of get it under your belt, get a little more confidence. Kind of, I can handle this. This is not too big for me. I think that's important for a young kid. And Von Miller's a huge test. I mean, Colton was saying how you watch him on TV, all the stories about Von Miller. Then to sit down this week and watch it in game film, that's the guy I'm going to be taking on. It's a whole different animal. But I think he's up to it. He's up to the challenge. I know Donald Penn has played against Miller a lot. I'll have a lot of advice for Colton. I think he was joking today. He said he's going to tell Colton to pray because Von's a special kind of guy. But beyond prayer, they'll have some ideas for him. I just think that the reason the Raiders drafted Colton Miller was he has a big dude, very athletic, very quick. The strength isn't quite there yet, but it's definitely not that bad. So I just think I've been curious about what Colton Miller is going to be. I was impressed last week, so it's a good first step, and this week will be another big one for him.
Another obvious positive was Jared Cook. I know we all want to see the ball get pushed down the field, but if you're not doing that, 9 catches, 180 yards, franchise record for Jared Cook. And that ties into this week because an interesting story written from our Broncos beat writer. That's kind of cool thing with the Athletic. We've got this whole network of beat writers now. It's pretty awesome. Nikki Jabvala wrote that the Broncos last year allowed only 3,395 receiving yards, the third fewest in the league. Pretty good. But tight ends accounted for 1,023 of those, 63.9 yards per game, which was the third most in the league. So this is a Broncos defense that is going to has given up yards to tight ends. So that could lead into another big game for Jared Cook. And we saw Derek Carr be more than willing to find Jared Cook on Monday night, and we could see it again on Sunday.
Or, if not that, then maybe they focus on Cook a little more, then it opens up things for Mari and for Jordy and those guys. So I think there's definitely weapons on this offense. I know fans are going nuts about last week, and then Cooper having one catch and not being really involved. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think it's a good positive step that Cook had a big week. He's a big-time weapon if they use him that way. So you try to get other guys up to that level and spread things out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, in the positive, we talked about this after the game on our show, and I wrote about it that night, is that there's really no reason to be worried about Amari Cooper. It's his one catch, his 3 targets were not an Amari Cooper problem. He was getting open, got a chance to go back and watch some film of it over the week, and you see plays where maybe it was the interior pressure that didn't allow Carr to be able to get to that progression. There was times where Carr just simply didn't look his way,
right.
and obviously that's got to change, but Amari Cooper, it was getting open. He was getting open deep. I know there was a lot of talk about they were boxing him in, and so and there was a lot of that. But there were times where Amari in the slot was getting open deep, and there could have been some touchdowns probably if you get the right throw. And I looked up another stat out a day or so later that showed that he was among all the wide receivers, his average top speed was 17.5 miles per hour, the 6th best average top speed among receivers in the league last week, right behind Tyreek Hill. And I think we all know how fast that guy is.
Right.
Jordan Nelson, a little bit different. He was all the way down at 100 out of 100 receivers. I think he was like in the 9.5. So maybe Jordy doesn't quite have the wheels that they've been talking up. But Amari Cooper, no reason to be worried about him. The guy he's getting open. He's running fast. He's, that was another thing I heard. People, everyone gets worried when Amari comes in all bulked up for training camp. Oh, he's going to lose his speed. Hasn't lost his speed. Hasn't lost his ability to get open. He's going to be fine. That doesn't mean he's going to have a big game this week because obviously the Broncos present some tough matchups there in the secondary. But I think I'm not worried right now about Amari Cooper.
Right, I know Gruden mentioned there was a couple of plays where he was open deep, and then he didn't know why they didn't go to him. But I think part of the reason was the game plan coming in was to go to Cook and attack the linebackers and the safeties of the Rams with Cook and Jalen Richard, the running back, which they did. So I think if you're Derek Carr and those were your first 2 looks, I'm not sure he has a lot of time in his mind. He's processing things pretty fast, and it's a new offense. I know I don't want to give Derek too many excuses because he did not play well in the second half. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Definitely made some bad plays, threw the ball away on 3rd down. But I think it's understandable in terms of your first week of a new offense, playing a top defense, and your game plan is to attack the safeties and linebackers, not so much attack Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib. So I think it's a work in progress. I think it's a good, again, we talked about the tackles. This is also a good test for Derek. He hasn't played well against Denver historically, so I think it'd be a nice step for him this week to kind of take off where he left last week at halftime. That first half was pretty good. Build off that this week against a top defense and see where they go.
Another positive we had jotted down, obviously Jalen Richard. Now, again, we want to, you want to see a little more diversity, being able to throw the ball down the field. But I mean, if you're Jalen Richard, you're doing your job. If you're catching all those underneath passes and having a field day there, so that's not necessarily everything you want to see out of the offense. But it's nice to have a guy like that is reliable. And I don't think probably a whole lot of people had him in their fantasy league, but if you're in a PPR league with Jalen Richard last week, you were pretty happy.
I asked Jalen this week, I was curious if he knew what PPR was, and he laughed and said no, and I told him, he's like, that makes sense, because everyone's been telling me what a great job I did. I'm like, yeah, that's what it is, man, it's PPR. He's like, that's good to know. But the thing about Jalen is that, and Gruden loves to mention Belichick. That's one of the guys who thinks is the top coach in the league and what he does with his offense. He's talked about it a few times is how much he uses their running backs. Running backs are kind of satellites. So you can see what the defense is doing based on how they attack your running back and out in the open in terms of where he's going to run on his routes and that kind of thing. So he said Jalen Richard is emerging in that kind of role as a Patriots-type running back, which is a good thing for him and also for his offense. So I will say we're giving Jalen a lot of love. And I love Jalen, but there was that one drop, which it was a big play. It was kind of he came around the right side. It was a quick pass from Derek and kind of went off his hands. Watch that tape. He has acres of yards ahead of him. He catches that ball in stride. He's going for a long way. I mentioned that to Greg Olsen the other day after his weekly press conference, and Ole's like, he's like, that really, like, it was a real gut punch because that was a play they dialed up and stayed for that spot, and it was a great timing of it. And, again, you catch that ball, it might be 6 points. So Jalen did a great job, but it's always the one that gets away that kind of you remember more than the other stuff.
Yeah. Other positives, Mike Nugent made both of his field goals, and that was a guy that, I mean, nobody expected him to be anything other than a mentor when he came in, and he did pretty well in week 1.
It's funny how life works out, man. Your old buddy Pasacci gives you a call, like, hey, man, you should come with Napa for a couple of weeks. How about this kid? We'll have some wine, we'll have some dinners, and he's 2 weeks, and we'll get you a little paycheck. And then Piniella gets hurt, and now Newton's the guy, and did a good job. So he's a veteran, been around the league 13 years. And so I'm not sure he's going to be a long-distance kind of guy, but from inside of 40, 45, it looks like he's going to be a pretty safe bet.
Yep. On the defensive side, we talked about this on our post-game show. The defensive back play. There were those long defensive pass interference calls, but otherwise, we saw the cornerbacks make some plays. We're not gonna be hard on Reggie Nelson here because you're already too hard on Reggie Nelson.
Yeah, Paul Gunther told me to take it easy on him. I'm not, which is ironic. Reggie Nelson's one of my favorite guys in the locker room, and I think he's not the player he once was. But I get why he's here. I get the reason he knows the system so well, helps other guys out. But if you watch the film, there are plays where he's not only chasing the receiver, he's chasing the cornerback. So 2 guys got behind him, like more than one. So that's definitely not something you want to see. But I think that it was Gunther, when I asked him about that, said that Reggie does not stick out more than anybody else in our defense. As far as the bad plays, he's not making any more bad plays than anybody else in our defense, which I'm not sure that's a good thing. But and again, I know what Paulie's doing. I mean, Reggie's this guy, he brought him in for a reason. He's not going to throw him under the bus. I think that's to be respected. And I think at some point you'll see more Carl Joseph. We'll see more Eric Harris. I think they're going to mix and match. I think that first week, the Rams were so complex as far as their offense and their route combinations. You want a guy who totally knows exactly everything about your defense, what it can and can't do in each situation. So I think that's part of the reason why Reggie Nelson played every snap. And Eric Harris did not get in the game, and Carl Joseph only got in when Gilchrist got hurt. So I think as we go on, you'll see more guys being used at safety.
Yeah, they're going to have to get a lot of guys involved. I think both, especially on defense this week, because you're talking they're about to play in elevation in heat. I think it's supposed to be about 92, 93 on Sunday, so it's going to be a hot weekend in Denver at elevation. And I know my experience over the years going to Denver, when it's cool, when it's average, that elevation doesn't bother me too much. But you get into the heat, and that can be a little more to deal with because you're already panting hard in the heat, and then you got less oxygen up there. That'll be a little challenge.
So we'll see how their depth holds up.
Yep. Another positive is that, okay, you look at the final score, 33-13. But, as I was going back and watching the game, and, it took a touchdown on the final play of the third quarter for the Rams to take, I think, their first lead of the game.
Right.
This is a good Rams team. And,
very good.
Very good Rams team. Expect them to be in the playoffs. Could be a team you could see going on a nice playoff run. And the Raiders, they let the game get away from them, but it was a game really going into the fourth quarter, and when you're playing a good team and you're kind of in this semi-rebuilding mode, you respect that a little bit. I mean, you don't want to see a game get away from you. You don't want to see a pick six that kind of puts the game away. But I know their kind of talk after the game was that the final score wasn't indicative. And as I went and watched it again, I kind of got on board with that.
I think week 1 now around the league is very tough to analyze because so many teams now don't play guys at all in the preseason. The Rams didn't. Raiders barely did at all. So it's like really your first kind of test wire to wire, with all your guys on the same page. And you look at the Rams. Jared Goff was terrible in the first half of that game. Yeah. And he finally warmed up a little bit and got better and did some damage. But I just think that it's hard to come in if you're not having played much in the preseason or at all and just kind of be in sync from the get-go. So I think they did some good things in the first half. The game got away from them in the second half, and I just think that you got to take it. It's the first game under a new regime. It's a new era, so I think it's going to take a little bit of time before people can really react too strongly about what's going on.
All right, let's take a look ahead at Sunday's game against the Broncos, a team that they beat the Seahawks 27-24 last week, and a second straight game at home for them. And Case Keenum going up against the guy who almost led the Vikings to the Super Bowl last year. The Broncos went ahead and got him in free agency in the offseason. His debut, like Derek Carr, threw 3 interceptions, but he did make up for it a little bit with 3 touchdowns, 323 yards, and a very balanced running game that saw Freeman and Lindsey both go exactly 15 carries, 71 yards. What do you make out of this Broncos team?
Yeah, I watched the game on Sunday, and I thought Keenum was a little erratic at first, but when I needed him to be sharp down the stretch, he was like 7 of 7, I think, in the last couple drives. So he's a tough guy. John Gruden, absolutely. I mean, Gruden loves every quarterback pretty much ever walked the earth, but you can tell some guys he likes more than others. You get that feeling about Case Keenum. He mentioned that he thinks he was the best free agent signing in the NFL this offseason, which is kind of it's a big statement. Man, there are a lot of guys that were signed this year, a lot of quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins. So say he's the best guy. I went back and watched his quarterback camp tape with Keenum back out of college. You can tell then he really likes the kid, how he throws in different angles. He stands in the pocket, takes a big hit. So I think he likes what the Broncos did there. So, again, if they have the running game, Lindsey's going to be a big test of the Raiders. Lindsey's a guy who gets shot in space and kind of can wreak havoc out of the backfield. So that'll be a test for Whitehead and for guys like Derek Johnson if they can keep up with that guy.
We'll mention Tahir Whitehead was scheduled to appear on the show. Last-minute rescheduling was not able to make it, so that's why we got just Vic and I, and we'll get Tahir on the show sometime soon.
Yeah, definitely.
So a big difference, as I look at kind of the stat line here from the Broncos game is you see their top target, Emmanuel Sanders, 11 targets. He catches 10 of them for 135. That's a guy they're going to have to slow down, obviously, if they want to have a chance to keep this game close.
Yeah, I always thought he's one of the most underrated receivers in the league. I think this new offense with a new quarterback, they're going to be like the security blanket, which I think is a good role for him. So definitely a big test for those cornerbacks. You talked about those guys flashed at times, and so we'll see what Leon Hall played the whole game in nickel, and he also had Gary and Conley and Melvin. So it's a big test for those guys. Thomas is a big guy on the other side of the field. So will Rogers Cromartie play more because he's going against Thomas? I mean, that could be something we see. So. Yeah, I think it's a good test.
Von Miller, he's already in form. 3 sacks in the opener. That's going to be. We talked about it earlier. That's going to be a heck of a challenge for both. I'm sure he'll move around and he'll definitely be trying to attack Colton Miller quite a bit, and he'll probably see how Donald Penn's holding up on the right side every once in a while. Yeah,
Von Miller's top 4 guys in the league. I won't go into the rest of that list because people get mad, but. Impact guy. When you get those kind of guys, you move them around, you feature them, and make things hard for the other offense. So I think that'll definitely be another thing to watch how Gruden reacts to that.
And we get to see our old friend Marquette King. Will Bruce Irvin introduce himself?
I think Bruce has got enough on his plate with his new defense, and he had a weird role last week. Only played half the snaps.
That was weird.
On pass rushing down. So we'll see if that's going to be the pattern. I mean, not really going to tell us too much about what they're doing long term, but. I know they wanted to cut back on the snaps to get them fresher for third downs and get after the quarterback. So that was a little drastic, but we'll see how much he plays this week. But I know Bruce is pretty much locked in on that part of it. I'm not sure he's going to worry about the other team's punter. But I will say this. I mean, Marquette King won some games to the Raiders over the years.
Yep.
Definitely,
in Denver.
In Denver especially. So I think that could be a big matchup to watch this week, how the rookie does, Townsend for the Raiders, and what Marquette has in mind against his old team. I know Marquette's fired up. He definitely wants to prove to John Gruden they made a big mistake in cutting him.
I mean, because he's got that huge leg, and then you put him in that elevation. I mean, he's going to have some booming punts. Last week he was 6 punts, average 44.5 yards, 3 inside the 20. But Michael Dixon on the other side for the Seahawks had a humongous game, averaged 59 yards per punt on his 6 punts, a 57.5 net. I don't think Johnny Townsend's gonna quite do that, but
watching Townsend in the camp and preseason, I know the Raiders like him, but I don't know if he has that big a leg.
He doesn't. He's supposed to be an accurate kind of coffin corner guy.
Yeah, I'm a little
worried. His first punt of the game, he got off one that was pretty good, but you're gonna see shanks out of him. That's fact. I think you're going to see some shanks out of him. He's not going to be the same big leg, reliable guy.
You look back at all the moves that Gruden's made, so many moves already. You look back at all the moves he's made. I think the Marquette King one could be underrated as far as negative impact on this team in terms of the one-loss record. But we'll see. It'll definitely be head-to-head this weekend, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. All right. Well, I think you're ready to head over and take some questions?
Let's do it. And
this is where we have to say that you can't blame us. You're going to be surprised, Vic. People ask us, stop talking about Khalil. I said the name I'm not supposed to say, but we got asked quite a few questions about Khalil here. I think we're going to try to avoid most of them, but we might have to get one or two of them. But let's kind of go run through them. From Miguel Ramirez, he mentioned Holton was getting a look at cornerback. Any developments there? Gruden kind of put threw a little water on that today. That he's playing wide receiver too. They've got him with a cornerback number 26, and they're going to get him some looks there. But it's kind of a simple matter. When a guy's on a practice squad, you're playing both ways. So it's maybe a little bit overblown that they're now listing him there. I mean, I don't think they've locked into anything.
I wonder if it really is a case that we're out of chairs in the receiver room. That's so many receivers, they didn't have enough chairs in the meeting room.
How many do they have on the practice squad?
Yeah, they got 3. So, you know what, Johnny, we're out of chairs. Go down the hallway, and the first one you see with an empty chair, sit there. And, cornerback. All right, good, you're cornerback. So it is kind of bizarre. But, yeah, Johnny Holton is basically, at this point in his career, he's a team's guy. He's a guy. He's a gunner. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. So if you ever need him for that role, you call him up, and then he'll do that. But as far as his future at receiver or cornerback, it's not really there yet. So I think it's pretty much just kind of a special teams guy on call, if you will.
And I would imagine Rich Bisaccia had a role in this. It kind of is similar to Keith Smith with the same deal a couple years ago, in Dallas, where here was a guy that was a good special teams player, but they struggled to find a spot consistently on the roster for him at linebacker, but he kept playing fullback on the scout team, and Bisaccia finally went to Garrett and was like, let him play fullback. Like, let him
right.
have a shot at fullback, and he ended up winning a job.
And here's the thing. I don't think it's impossible that Holton gets called up tomorrow, because you look at it, and they dropped Keon Hatcher, who was the gunner last week, so you still need a gunner. And Dwayne Harris was questionable all week of practice. Now he'll play, but he's a little banged up, so the other gunner. So if you're 2 gunners, one's a little hurt and one's gone. So I don't know who they would send down for Holton if they called him up, but that's his thing. He's a gunner, and he was a good one last year. So I don't know if that's in the works for tomorrow. We'll see, but I don't know who else is the gunner at this point. They're not showing me the special teams game plan, but I think that might be no, seriously. But I think that might be in the works, so that wouldn't surprise me.
All right. Another question here from Luis Felipe Chapa. Should we be worried about the mental aspect of Carr?
I don't think so, man. People just they're so fast to react, like especially on national landscape. As far as a week ago, this was a perfect marriage. Carr and Gruden love each other. The energy and all the stuff. And now it's like, Gruden's too negative, and Carr is he's shaking mentally. I just think if you look at it, it was one game. Let's see how it goes from here. It was one half. The first half was pretty good. Right. So I think Carr's fine. I think Carr laughs at it all, and we'll just have to analyze this as it goes on. And maybe it might be a problem. I'm not saying it's not an issue, but I think it's way too early to say those 2 guys can't get this going in the right direction.
Similarly, it's too early to ask this question, and this is a question that suddenly just has blown up. It's from Kenny Estrada. Does Carr make it to Vegas?
Yeah, I'm not. His contract is such that you can definitely get out of it in a couple of years if you want to.
You could get out of it theoretically after this year if you
wanted.
Theoretically,
you would save $19 million out of the $25. But again, Gruden said he came here to coach Mack and Carr. I don't think he's going to go 0 for 2. I think he really believes Carr has all. I think Carr does in terms of the arm strength, the smarts. Carr has all the tools you need to succeed. I think Gruden wants to get there with him. So I think it's way too early to talk about is Carr going to Vegas.
Because amid any deficiencies that he may have, you always have to ask yourself, who are you getting that's better?
Yeah.
And you've got to get somebody else that's better if you're going to dump him. And they don't have anybody better on the roster right now. That's for sure.
I'm not sure if we're really going to be extreme and try to project what's happening in 2020. I'm sure you could draft a top guy in the first round, and that could be your guy. But,
and then that becomes a big question.
Right, but I just think in terms of what happened with Mack, no one on the roster is safe. I know Derek Carr is the safest guy on the roster, but really no one can say, hey, man, I bought a house in Vegas, I'm ready to go in 2 years. No one can say that. The only guy who can say that is Gruden. It really is. And so I think, don't buy houses in Vegas, Raider players. I wouldn't do it. Hold off a while.
Yep. All right, from Oliver, I'd love to know your guys' rookie grades. What defensive player had the most impact? I don't know about full grades. I think we'd give a pretty positive grade to Colton Miller. I don't think
I give Colton an A.
I give Colton an A. All right, maybe an A- for that.
And again, and the Rams aren't great on the outside up front. So it's definitely it's an A with a question mark, but it's an A.
Yeah. As far as the rookies on defense, I don't, no, none of those guys really made a huge impact. Obviously, P.J. Hall hurt the ankle and
I give
played
P.J. an A for toughness. He got hurt very early on, and he played through it, which not everybody would. So I think it cost him the game this week. He won't play on Sunday, but Arden Key. That's a lot of pressure for Arden Key. I mean,
bigger role than he was supposed to have.
Yeah, exactly. He came in to be the third rusher, behind Irvin and Khalil. Now he's the second rusher. He's playing against the run. He didn't play against the run at all in the preseason. He came only on passing downs in the preseason. And now he's out there. He's on the edge, and he sees a quick toss to Todd Gurley coming right at him. That
was tough.
He didn't set the edge at all, which again,
he hasn't practiced setting the edge.
Exactly. So I think he's a very confident kid. I think he's definitely thinks he can do a lot better. He watched the film, and he was funny. He said, I knew I was bad, but I was better than I thought I was. I wasn't terrible. So I think that cracked me up. So I think he'll be fine. I think I give him an A for confidence. And Mo Hurst, I think, was fine. Mo didn't make an impact plays, but he saw one play he chased down Goff. He shows a little speed, a little burst. So I think those guys will be fine. It's going to take a while. It's like Gruden said, it's tough to be a rookie in the NFL. It's tough to be a rookie starting in the NFL, especially on a defense where the offenses are throwing a lot at you.
Yeah. All right. Question here from the guy handles Trade Gruden, of course. What did you think of Gruden's adjustments or lack thereof in the second half of the Rams game? And I will say I think offensively they didn't have a great game plan in terms of the thing that bothered me, and I think I've mentioned this a few times, is that if they're taking away Cooper, they were playing a lot of off coverage, 8 yards off, 10 yards off. Okay, they're taking away those deep balls. Don't keep running. Don't just keep sending Cooper deep if they're playing him off with the safety over the top. Throw him a slant. Throw him a hitch. Get him the ball. Make those kind of adjustments. Even if you're having a field day with Jared Cook, you got to get other guys involved, and you got to get Cooper involved. And I think they could have made some more adjustments there in the second half to force him into the game, get him involved, and then maybe that opens up even more for Jared Cook.
I agree. I think they got too comfortable with Cook and Jalen Richard as being the focal points of their offense. I think that you have to find, even Jordy Nelson, can find ways to get him involved. And I think part of it, and we'll see this week now with Martavis Bryant back, is they don't really have the deep threat. They keep talking about opening the top off the defense. I know Cooper can do that in spades, but if he's your main guy, he's kind of the target of the other team. I'm not sure he does that. So I think Martavis Bryant will at least give you a deep threat on the other side of the field and kind of open things up a little more for everybody else.
All right. We're gonna address one Khalil Mack question on here. Should we? Or should I take it? All right.
We should.
Okay. From Darren Covey.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't say that, but it's kind of a big deal.
All right. From Darren. Does the fact that Khalil Mack had the best game of his career,
did
he? I don't think so.
That's not true.
And the Bears still lost, proved the Raiders' point. Multiple good players are better than one great player. I mean, if they can't win when he is that dominant, how much more of a difference does he need to make? I don't know if we'll first address that. I don't think that was a good game, but I think the game against the Panthers here, where he did basically the same thing, and I think a little bit more, had the pick six, had a sack, forced fumble, and then the game in Denver with 5 sacks. Those I would probably put ahead. And his playoff performance against the Texans was out of this world. He was like the only guy that showed up that day. Didn't show up. I mean, he had 11
of all
tackles.
The things on Twitter this week, all the reactions. There's so many, and the biggest thing that I haven't liked, or I think I find fault with, is the whole point that they lost the game. And that proves Mack isn't worth the money, or Mack isn't. I mean, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. I mean, he put him in position to win that game. It's not his fault the guy dropped the interception. Not his fault that they couldn't run a good play on third down. I don't know what Nagy was doing. They had third and short, and they threw the ball.
Yeah.
If you run the ball once or even twice on fourth again, the game's over.
Yeah.
I mean, so and plus Mack, again, he missed camp because of his own doing, but he missed camp. He only had 4 days of practice, I think it was. Definitely winded. I just don't. I mean, I'm a Mac apologist. The Raider fans are going to say, but man, he looked good. And man, to me, that's the kind of guy you build teams around. I don't understand the logic that they lost to the Packers in Green Bay on a last-second play. The Bears, the Chicago Bears, with no any hopes for this year. So the Bears lost on the last play to the Packers in Green Bay.
With a Hall of Fame quarterback having an otherworldly performance.
So that means the trade was good and Mack is not worth it. That just does not make any sense to me whatsoever. But I get it. Fans are pissed off. They're bitter. I understand, but let's just be logical. Let's use a little bit of logic when we look at these things. A little, just a little tiny shred.
And I'll say, I mean, it's a fair argument to make that paying two guys that much money is not the best way to build a roster. I don't even necessarily dispute that argument.
But Gruden did. You're getting me started now. Gruden in his comments when he said that on Monday Night Football, the interview he did, I think he did on Sunday or whatever, was, you know what, Mac didn't want to be here. So, which is not whatever if it's true or not. But so that point totally erases his first two arguments. Like one, he had said that you can't pay two guys, you can't pay a quarterback and a D lineman, or you can't do it. Then he said we got an offer we couldn't refuse. They offered us 2 1s. You can't turn that down. So he did then, did not wait. But now you're saying he didn't want to be here. So if he didn't want to be here, that means you pay him? If you guys actually sat down, had lunch, and hit it off, that means you pay him? That's why you're bringing this up? It makes no sense. So that he killed himself with that last point. So I just think the whole first 2 points are now just irrelevant in my mind.
All right, that was our 10%. We said we.
Sorry, buddy. You got me. Rant. I'm done.
All right, a couple final questions, and then we are going to. I got a pack for Denver still. All right, from Pork Chop. Should we be?
Pork Chop. What's his name? I like
Pork
that.
Chop.
Pork Chop.
He fired us like 4 questions.
Chop.
Should we be concerned about the play of Kelechi Osemele, or just chalk it up to going up against some of the best defensive linemen in the NFL? That interior for the Rams is pretty dominant.
Yeah, I think. I mean, the whole Aaron Donald flashed, but Aaron Donald didn't really kill the game, which to hit KO's a credit.
He almost killed Derek Carr.
He did, but I think that's a tall task. I think KO wasn't dominant, but I'm not sure you can be dominant in that situation. I think he did as best he could, and I think he's fine.
Yep. How did Garyon Conley play in Week 1? Don't think Goff went in his direction that much.
I thought he was okay. I thought, like I mentioned, the other quarterbacks, he flashed at times good. I think he made some nice plays. I also thought towards the end, a couple of drives, I think in the third quarter late, they kind of went after him a few plays back to back. I think he didn't have great press coverage. So I think it was good and bad. I think it's really his first live game.
Basically a rookie, yeah.
Yeah, he's basically a rookie. So I think he showed enough things you can build on, but I wouldn't say he was great. I just think it's going to be hit or miss for these guys a little bit in the early going.
All right, man. Well, I think we're going to get ready and get packed and get heading to Denver. We'll have a post-game show late Sunday night from the Mile High City.
Who's your pick?
Who's my pick? Should we make them wait? You want to give your pick here?
Make them wait till what? Oh, till the online? Should we go online? Oh, yeah. Suckers. Log on and read our picks.
You can make your pick here. You want to make your picks here? Go ahead.
On the VIX picks, I picked the Raiders.
Oh, that's right. You do the VIX picks.
To cover the spread. So they're +6.
Okay.
Does that mean they're going to win the game? I'm not sure, but I think it's going to be really close. I think they might win it. So I'm going to go with the Raiders +6 is my pick.
Okay. I mean, in our predictions that'll go online tomorrow, I've got Broncos 24, Raiders 21. So
also +6.
Covering
so
the spread.
We're giving you a lock. We're giving you against the spread lock. We're saying the Raiders +6. Take it to the bank, get some money out, put it on for your bookie or your online gambling guy, and buy your mom a nice present next week.
All right. That'll wrap it up for this week. And Vic is you were 11-4-1, I think, against the spread.
I'm due for a huge fall, but that's all right. I'm going to enjoy it for a while it lasts.
All right. We'll talk to you guys on Sunday night.
Adios.